There is a particular kind of confidence that comes with taking a design risk in a small, practical room. Not because laundry rooms are overlooked, these days they are absolutely part of the dream home conversation, but because this is where your house proves whether or not it can actually support you. It's a working room. It holds the reset, the maintenance, the parts of life that don't pause. But their size also means there's freedom to experiment, to try something bold that you might be too nervous to attempt in a living room or a bedroom. I've been thinking about that freedom a lot lately, about what it means to live in a body that already requires so much adaptation and accommodation, where so many decisions about my home in particular have been dictated by medical necessity, not necessarily aesthetic preference. The low VOC materials that I can tolerate, the accessible layouts that support my limited mobility, the modifications that keep me safe. But I'm not interested in a home that's only functional. I want a home that's functional and beautiful in every room, because I'm here, because this is where 90% of my life happens. And I've also learned that in this body, the way you get there isn't one dramatic weekend. It's small progress, chipped away in focused bursts until eventually the whole house starts to shift. So let me show you this laundry room, one practical, moody little chapter in slowly turning a spec house into a dream home. Here's what the laundry room looked like before. This is exactly how it came from our builder, besides me adding the peg rack on the wall and obviously our washer and dryer. To get ready to paint, I have a cart set up with all of my painting supplies, including a large flocked roller for the walls and a smaller foam roller for the trim and cabinetry. I also have an Air Doctor HealthMate Plus air purifier to help with the VOCs and a KN94 mask. Oh, and two kinds of paint. One 0 VOC eggshell sheen for the walls and one low VOC satin sheen for the trim. My bestie Autumn came over to help me with some of the painting, and we started by taking the shelf and clothing bar off the wall because I'm going to be doing something else in that area. And then we got to work. This is essentially a spec home, and while we did get to make a few change orders and requests, we tried to limit them to really important things. That meant that we only got to choose one paint color for the entire house, which is this off-white color you'll see on the walls and the ceilings. It's called Shoji White by Sherwin Williams. So all of the walls and all of the ceilings in our entire house are Shoji White, and the builder told us that all of the trim was going to be plain ultra white. We didn't get to choose that. I don't think I have the energy to color drench any of the larger rooms, but I love the idea of color drenching these smaller spaces, so I'm starting here in my laundry room, but I'll also be color drenching both of the bathrooms upstairs later this year. Besides Shoji White, the other two main colors in my home are Palm Leaf by Sherwin Williams, which is a very brown olive green color, and this Cordovan maroon burgundy color, which is what I chose to do for the laundry room. It's really interesting how different Cordovan looks in different lighting. Sometimes it looks more cherry red, sometimes it looks more of an oxblood color, and sometimes it looks more like a deep Pinot Noir. I absolutely love burgundy and maroon, especially since I married a Texas Aggie, and I'm really excited to see how this room looks completely color drenched in this Cordovan hue. I was determined to paint this entire room without having to disconnect the washer or the dryer. I think I did 3 coats on everything overall, if I remember correctly, but as a reminder, all of this painting was done back in March of last year, so it's been a while. Now that all the walls are done, I'm moving on to the cabinetry with that 4-inch foam roller. I found a foam roller gives me the best results on cabinetry, but I'm interested to hear if you have a tool or technique that you like better. These have held up pretty well overall, so I think I'm onto something here, but I'm always open to new techniques and information. Now it's time to paint all of the doors of the cabinets, and you may have noticed with the cabinet frames as well as the doors here, I'm not prepping them at all. I'm not using a deglosser or sanding them or anything like that. Those extra steps are something that I don't tolerate very well with my chemical sensitivities, and it's been almost a year since I painted these and they're holding up just fine, but your mileage may vary and you may choose to sand or use a deglosser before painting cabinetry in your own home. I also ended up doing about 3 coats on all of the cabinet doors as well, front and back, and you'll see me going back and forth between using a brush to get in all of the nooks and crannies, and then going over everything with the smooth foam roller. It's a few days later and time to reinstall all of the cabinet doors now that they have dried completely. I had no idea how the screws on the hinges of cabinet doors worked until this video, so you're seeing me in real time figure out which screw makes things go up and down and which screw makes the doors go in and out. I'm really glad to know that trick now, but you may notice that I accidentally put the cabinet doors under the sink on upside down, and a year later I still need to go back and fix those. Then I added a picture rail on top of the existing peg rack. I thought this made things look a little more finished, and also it gives me a place to add some art and knickknacks and other decor. And here's what the laundry room looked like from last March until about a month ago. Now it's January of this year, and I'm back to finish this project, starting with, to no one's surprise, more painting! Anytime you color drench a space, it's likely that most of what you're doing will be painting, and this project was no different. I started by painting one side of the door, a 2x2 that I'm going to make into a hanging drying rack, and staining some shelves to go where the builder grade clothing bar used to be. Next, I need to touch up all the paint in the laundry room itself and finish painting the door frame. Then it's back to the garage to do the other side of the door. Just like with the other cabinetry, I ended up doing 3 coats on each side. The next day, my husband helped me reinstall the door, and then I reinstalled the doorknob and tested everything to make sure it lined up and that nothing got nicked in the process that needed a paint touch-up. A few more days have passed, and I'm back to work on this corner of the laundry room that used to have the builder grade clothing bar. I decided to put a few shelves over here, so you're seeing me add blocking to the wall and then attach the shelves directly to the wooden pieces below. Now it's back to the garage to attempt something I've never done before. I'm going to make some decorative trim pieces to go in front of the shelves and hopefully tie everything together. You're seeing me trace a template I made, which I'll show you more of in a minute, onto a 1/2-inch sheet of birch plywood. I thought I had multiple jigsaw blades on hand, but it turns out they got lost in our move, and I only had the blade that was already on the jigsaw, which is probably about 5 or 6 years old and probably twice the thickness it should be for these tiny little curves. But it was also 10 o'clock at night when I was doing this, and I knew if I didn't power through, it might be another year before I finished this project. By the way, I think it's really funny how the time lapse here looks kind of like stop motion. Once I cut out the first side trim piece, I sanded things as best I could with both my power sander and just sanding by hand, but I didn't worry too much about things being perfect. Then I traced the second side trim piece onto my plywood, cut that out, and sanded it the same way as I did the first side. I wasn't too worried about them matching exactly. I knew that wasn't going to be possible with the jigsaw blade being so thick, and I'm okay with things looking a little rustic, so I just did the best I could with what I had on hand. It might be worth mentioning here that I've only recently been able to start using power tools again. With my mast cell activation syndrome and my dysautonomia, the vibrations of the power tools were absolutely unbearable for the last 5 years. So it's actually a really big milestone to me to be able to use a jigsaw and a power sander again. Anyways, I quickly cut my 8-foot 2x2 in half because I want the largest drying rack I can fit in this laundry room. Then I moved to staining the side trim pieces with the same early American that I used for the shelves. And now back to assembling the drying rack. With the way our house is set up, I don't really have a good spot to hang things to dry, so I knew I wanted to get as much drying rack square footage as I could out of this project and out of this laundry room makeover. You'll see me start by drilling holes into the 2x2 and then screwing 3/4-inch dowels onto each end. I did come back and create more of a mortise and tenon situation here, but I forgot to film that part. And I didn't stain the dowel rods because I didn't want any stain to get on anything that I hang over them. Now I'm back in the laundry room, crossing my fingers that I've cut my trim pieces the correct size and getting them installed. Because these won't be load-bearing in any way, I'm just using my battery-powered brad nailer to secure these to the shelves and the blocking on the sides. Right now you can see that the top of the trim piece is sticking up just slightly over the top shelf. That's on purpose because the trim pieces in the middle are going to be wider than the shelves themselves. So you just saw me cutting, staining, and installing these side trim pieces for the laundry room shelves. I still need to cut the middle trim pieces that go across the front of all the shelves, and wood putty that to make it all tie together. But I wanted to get these installed as soon as I had them cut and sanded because I really wasn't sure if they were gonna fit right. It has been at least a decade since I did this type of woodworking, probably longer. And with the fact that I did it with a dull blade that was thicker than it should have been, and therefore I wasn't able to get all the tight corners that I wanted, these actually came out really well. I'm really pleased with these. I was especially worried about getting this middle section to line up with the middle shelf, especially because there's more distance between this shelf and this shelf than there is between this shelf and this shelf. And I thought I was gonna have to cut out multiple tries to get that right. So getting that right on the first 2 tries, the first set, and getting this good of a result with improper tools, that's a huge win for me. The reason that I made the distance between these 2 shelves different than the distance between these 2 shelves is because I want to put a laundry basket on this bottom shelf. This shelf is only 11 inches deep, and I couldn't find a laundry basket to buy that was that narrow but wasn't also super short, therefore making it kind of pointless to be a laundry basket. And I know how to weave baskets. I've been meaning to get back into it. So in a future video, hopefully near future, but not in this video, I'm just gonna weave my own laundry basket to go on this shelf, and I'm gonna make it about 12 inches tall. So I needed a few more inches above that to be able to throw clothes in and pull clothes out. But then on this shelf, I don't need to access things up here as often. So that might just have extra paper towels or extra laundry detergent. So I didn't need as much space up here. So that's why they're different. Now that I have these side trim pieces installed, I can tell that I don't like them being stained. I think it's okay for the shelves inside to be stained. I think these side pieces, as well as the trim pieces that go across the shelves themselves, will look a lot better if I paint them the Cordovan color like the rest of the room. I think that'll tie it in, make it look a little more built in, make it look a little bit more like this is all one unit. And it's okay for the shelves themselves to be stained, but once I cut and install the trim pieces that go in front of the shelves and then putty the cracks in between them and the side pieces, I will paint these side pieces Cordovan as well. So what else do I need to do in this room? You saw me starting to put together the drying rack that I'm going to hang from the ceiling, so I need to finish assembling that drying rack and then install it. I am going to cut another piece of wood for this wall to have a few more pegs on it, so I need to cut and install that. I need to hang the curtain rod under here and make the curtain for it. I'm just going to use some fabric I already have on hand that I think should work in this room, but I can always change that later if I want to go with a different fabric. And I have a few wall sconce like lamp things that I want to hang. And I think that'll probably be it for this video. I was going to do all the styling and decor in this video, but I have a few art pieces that are still waiting for me to make fabric frames for them, and 1 or 2 of them might go in this room, so I'll wait to do the final styling until the video where I make the laundry basket for this shelf. So I won't be finishing this project 100% in this video, but I will be getting pretty darn close. I didn't film cutting these trim pieces, but I basically used the jigsaw to just slice off a 1-inch piece of that same 1/2-inch birch plywood, and then I cut them down to the right length to fit in the middle of all the shelves. Then I painted the edges, tacked them on with brad nails, attached the 1x3 to the wall for the pegs, and then painted everything Cordovan. I think this looks so much better painted the Cordovan color. I'm really happy with how this turned out. And I figured I should show you guys the template that I made in case anyone is interested. So first I took just a sheet of printer paper and I folded it in half along this corner, and then I folded it in half along the corner again. And while it was folded, I cut out this half so that when I unfolded it, this half and this half would be the same. And then I traced that onto this piece of thicker, almost cardstock paper. And so on the time lapse, when you saw me tracing, I was tracing this here, and then again here, and then again here, and then again up there. So when all is said and done, I feel like this is a little more intricate than I was originally going for. I definitely could have gotten away with going way more simple, but I'm happy with how it turned out and it's done, so we're gonna love it. I am in the home stretch of this laundry room makeover. Now it's just 100 little things to cross the finish line. Like getting this paper towel holder installed. Then I needed to install all of the pegs against this wall and get them all painted to match the rest of the room. And now it's drying rack install time. Sorry for this weird angle, but I wanted to show you installing 2 of the pulleys on the ceiling that will allow the drying rack to be raised and lowered. Then I installed a 3rd pulley on the wall to help guide the nylon cord down to the boat hitch I installed at the end of the peg rack. Now I need to attach this burgundy paracord to my drying rack, and all I did for that was drill a hole in each corner, thread the paracord through, tied a big knot at the end, and then took a lighter and burned the end so it would stay put basically. Then I tied those 2 pieces together in the middle, made another knot, and burned that end. The moment of truth. I meant to look up other pulley systems for drying racks like this before attempting my install, but I didn't, so I'm installing this with a hope and a prayer and a somewhat decent engineering brain. Luckily it worked, and the drying rack is literally the largest possible size it could be in a room like this, and it works perfectly even fully loaded. Then I hung a little wastebasket for dryer lint onto the peg rack, as well as a basket filled with wool dryer balls, and slid in a temporary laundry basket to the space between the washer and the wall. I plan to make my own basket for this area eventually. Next, I whipped up a tiny curtain, probably a little too quickly, and didn't measure as carefully as I should have, which meant that this curtain was ever so slightly too short, and the pocket for the rod was a lot tighter than I originally intended. Getting the curtain onto the rod was actually quite a challenge, and I did have to do a lot of zhuzhing to make it look okay, but I actually really like the way it turned out, and I think the fabric I went with was a good choice. Well, that's it for this one. I'm really happy with how this space turns out. It feels like the room I've been imagining for over a year. I still have the laundry basket weaving project ahead of me, and when I film that process, I'll also film adding any last bits of art and styling decor to this space. If you're curious about that process or the color-drenched bathroom transformations I'm planning for later this year, subscribe so you catch those when they go live. And if you enjoyed this, but you're thinking, I like the aesthetic, but what I really need is pure organizational efficiency, I have a craft room makeover video that is all about accessible systems and functional design. I'll link that in the description below. I'm still pretty new to YouTube and genuinely trying to grow this channel. If you made it this far, it really helps if you like this video or leave a comment, even just to say hi, and maybe watch another video or 2 on my channel while you're here. The algorithm rewards that kind of engagement, and it makes a real difference for small creators like me. You can also find me on Instagram, where I share more behind the scenes moments from these videos and a lot more about my life in general. I'd love to connect with you there. Thank you for being here and supporting this work. I'll see you in the next one.